Okay, so I think we are recording now properly, finally. Let's see, Zoom stuff's in the way. Let me close it. Okay. Yeah. All right. So this is a new video I'm recording for 2025, week 6. So if you look here on week 6 on the course website, you'll see the current assignments down here. This is last week's and this week's assignments. And if you do that, what you will see is that we have a week 5 reading and a week 6 reading and homework. And if we look in the zyBooks, you'll see that those sections are pretty short. So I believe that the first thing in the week 5 zyBooks is the same as a lab that we've done. We have type conversions, which are in another video, and binary, which is another video, and then characters. We'll talk a little bit about characters today, actually, because we'll talk about it when we talk about strings, which is here in week 6. And most of these sections don't have very many exercises either. And you can tell by if you look at the number of points on these things. So like the week 5 homework is 11 points and the week 5 reading is 33, as opposed to, previous weeks where it was 70 points for the reading and 30 points for the homework. Same thing down here on week 6 homework and reading, where it's also 30 something points instead of higher. So these are short sections this week, and we can kind of just go over them and do some of the exercises to make sure that we know what's going on. So having said that, let's go ahead and get started. So I think I have Eclipse open here, which I will close this. No, I won't close it. I will make a new project, and we can use this project when we need to do some programming. And then we'll go ahead and get started. So this is going to be kind of strings. I'm just going to call this like week 6 example for our project. Let's finish it, and then let us create a new source file in here, a new class, and we'll call that I don't know, week 6 example again. And so we'll just start with a blank project here, basically. And yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started here. So this is just a blank project. And what I'm going to do with this blank project is, first of all, at the top, I'm going to put import java.util.scanner, because we know that we need that to be able to read from the keyboard, right? To read from the keyboard. Also, inside of my main method, we need to declare a scanner object again, so we can read from the keyboard, right? So I'll just take the same comment I've got there, and I'll put it right here. And to get a scanner object, we say scanner, that's the type, SCNR, that's the name. And what is it? It's a new scanner for system.end. So what we've just done, we've done many times already, even though it's week 5 or week 6, we've already done this a lot, right? So this is in order to read from the keyboard. Now, what I'm going to do in here as well is I'm going to declare a string, and I'm just going to call this like my string, just to give it a name that makes it clear that it's a, it's a string, but also it's not a string called string, because that might be confusing. So it's called my string. So I have a string now, okay? Now, what we want to look at in these sections, specifically in 6.1, is we want to know how to read a string from the keyboard. So I'm going to put a little message here. I'm going to say to read one word at a time. Well, just one word. So to read one word from the user. And also we'll remove this removes beginning and ending white space. So, which is usually one word. So what is white space? So white space, if you don't know, is spaces and tabs, basically. Spaces and tabs. Okay. So how would we do this? So what we would do to read one word is we want to use the keyboard scanner that we just made. So we'll say my string equals, and to read a string, it's going to be SCNR. That's the name of our scanner. Dot, and we've been using next int, next double, etc. to read variables from the keyboard. To read a single word, it's just next, not next anything, just next. Okay, so that's going to read one string. Now, I guess that's fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to print out the string so we can look at it. So print out the string. So system dot out dot, I'll do print line and my string. Okay, so we've got this little program here now, and if I run it, it's going to wait for me to type in a word. It's not going to tell me to type in a word. It's just going to wait. And after I type it in, then it's going to print it out. So let me just give me a little extra space here, and let's try this out. So we'll do run. The program's running. It's waiting for me to type in a word. And so what kind of word are we going to type? I don't know. Can't think of a word. Cookie. Right? And it printed it out. So my string.scnr, sorry, my string equals scnr.next. That read in the word cookie, and then system.out print line printed out the word cookie. Now, if I run this again, we'll be able to see what I'm talking about with the white space. So I say this removes beginning and ending white space, spaces and tabs. So if I go down here and I go space, tab, cookie, space, tab, then you'll see that the word that gets printed is cookie, but there's no spaces around it, right? And so that's what I meant when I said that this scnr.next removes the beginning and ending white space. Okay, so that's to read a word. Now, another thing we might do is we could read an entire line. So I'm going to go up here and I'm just going to make another string. Call it my string 2. Okay, so after we do all this, I'm going to now read an entire line. Okay, to read an entire line of text, my string 2 is scnr dot next line. So capital L on line, and then parentheses. So this method, next line, reads one line of text. Okay, and I guess let's just print it out, just like we did for the other one. And we'll need to print out my string 2 this time. Okay, so we're reading a string, printing it out, reading a string, and then printing it out. So when I run this now, what do we got? Oh, I got to save it. So if I say, let's say space, cookie, space, we get cookie. Okay, but now if I go space, well, it's not letting me click down here. Okay, so this is a little bit frustrating, but what's happening here is when I type cookie and then I hit enter, what's happening is the cookie is getting stored as the first string, but when I hit enter, it's actually creating the second string. And that's why it's not giving me an opportunity to type in the second word. So that's a little bit annoying. That happens sometimes when you're mixing next and next line. But just so to fix it, I'm going to get rid of that second one that we just printed here. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to get rid of the first one here. And we're just going to do this next line so I can show you the difference. So with scnr.next, it worked like this, right? Where if you had beginning spaces, it deleted them. Now we're trying next line. So this will be different. So when I run this and it's waiting for me to type a line now, I go space, 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 cookie, space, 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 enter. And this time you'll see that it printed out with the spaces, right? So the spaces were part of the line. So all of that ended up in the string. Okay. Now what I can do is I can put these back. So now it's reading a line and then it's reading a string. Or actually, what do I want? I don't really know what I want. I guess I want, right now, we'll use next. So next is the one that reads one word at a time. And to show you something, I run this and I go, what the heck? So if I run this, oh, I hit debug or something. I don't know. So let's run this. So scnr.next is what it's waiting for. So it's waiting for one word. If I type more than one word, so I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, like this, the only word that it read was 1. And that makes sense because scnr.next reads one word from the user. Okay. Now, what you could do is if I read one word and another word and another word, I just read 3 words, right? One after the other. And if I run this, and again, I'll type 1, 2, 3, 4, what do you think is going to print out? Think about it for a second. 3. And that should make sense to you, okay? Because when we do scnr.next, we're reading one word. So the first time I do it, I'm reading the 1. The second time I do it, I'm reading the 2. The third time I do it, I'm reading the 3. So I read 3 words. So the word that ends up in the string is just 3. Okay. So yeah, so that's how scnr.next works, one word at a time. Now we know that I can use next line, but if I do next line, I'm reading one line from the user. One line of text from the user. I deleted my print statement, so let's add it back. So if I read an entire line of text and I do 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to get printed out 1, 2, 3, 4. So all 4 words ended up in that one line of text. So it waits for you to press an enter. That's how it knows that you're at the end of a line. Okay, so that's kind of mostly what you need for that section 6.1. So let's go ahead and look at 6.1 in the zyBooks. So in the zyBooks here, we'll go to 6.1 and we have strings. So there's things that we can learn here that I didn't quite mention. So a string is a sequence of characters, yes. A string literal surrounds a character with double quotes. So when they say literal, what they mean by literal is one that you kind of type in. So when you're typing your code, if I take string, my string 2, and I say, hello there, like that, this part, hello there, that is a string literal. So if you're typing it in right there in your code, it's a string literal. Literal just means it's kind of like you're typing it there in the code. So like if I do int x equals 7, the 7 is also a literal. It's an integer literal. So if you're typing the value there in the code, that's a literal. So don't make too much of it, but that's what they mean when they say literal. And so there you go. Now, when you're typing a string, the string is going to end up as a sequence of different characters. And that also makes sense. And here we go. So just looking at the first ones, these should be pretty simple. There's like one or two tricks in here, but not a lot. We do know this. One thing I do want to make a point of is that when you do a string, so I'll do string, I'll just say S1 equals, and let me do this, just capital A. And then let me do character C1 equals capital A. So what I want you to notice about this is that when you are typing in a string literal, strings have double quotes. Characters have single quotes. So you have to be careful about that. If it's got double quotes, it's a string. If it has single quotes, it's a character. Characters and strings are not the same thing. And you can make an error too. So like if I run this, everything will be fine. Like the program's running. If I screw this up, if I put this in single quotes for my string, now I have an error because single quotes is not how you do a string. It's gotta be double quotes. And same thing for the character. You can't put a character in double quotes because if you put a character in double quotes, now it's a string, not a character. So you have to make them match what type you're using. So strings need double quotes, characters, single quotes. Okay, so that's important over here because it says which of these are string literals. Hey, it's in double quotes, so yeah. Hey there, sure. 674? No, that's an integer. 674 in quotes? Yes. You put it in double quotes, now it's a string. Okay. Nope. Look, single quotes. We know that that is not a string. It's supposed to be for a character, but even that is wrong because a character is one letter, not two letters. So this is all messed up. A in double quotes, yes, that's a string. Double quotes, string, single quotes, character. All right. Now what they're telling you here is that strings are an object. There are implications of that that are not particularly important now, but the reason that string starts with a capital S is because a string is a class. Just like when you create your project, the class that you create starts with an uppercase letter. Well, when they created string, it's a class, so it starts with an uppercase letter too. That's why it starts with a capital letter, because it's a class. Yeah, that's about it. Now, because it is a class, just kind of a comment here, I guess. So a class, right? What that is, and we're not learning about them until way later in the semester, but it's going to be a way of grouping all of the data and the methods for a particular topic together. Okay. And so string is a class. Okay. And so the data there, so the data for a string would be, you know, the actual letters in the word. Like, you know, hello, right? So the data are, you know, the string hello, but there are also methods that are going to give you string related functions. So what kind of string related functions are there? Well, there's going to be like string dot length. You can get the length of a string, or you can do string dot character at 0. That gets the first letter of the string. Character at 1 gets the second letter of the string. Character at 2 gets the third letter of the string. But as a method, character at gives you one letter of the string. There's plenty of other stuff you can do. There's also like I think it's uppercase like this. I don't know if it's upper, I don't know if the C is uppercase. We'd have to check, but something like this to make a string uppercase. Those exist as well. And so all of these are kind of related functions to strings, and we're not using them yet, but they're there inside of that class. And we could use them. So like back here, if I delete some of this, it's a little smaller so it fits. Let's just comment everything out. So let's print out my string 2. And my string 2 is hello there because that's what I typed here, right? But what if I go here to my string and I go to uppercase? So it looks like the C is uppercase. I can see that on the autocomplete. So if I do this and I run this, hey, look, now it's all uppercase. So I typed it lowercase, but it's printing uppercase because I ran the method to uppercase, which makes it all uppercase. So again, those kinds of things are built into the string class, and so we can use them. That's one of the implications of being inside of a class, which they're calling objects here because they kind of use the same text in the zyBook for multiple programming languages like C++ and Java. So the generic term is object, and the specific term for Java is class. Okay. All right. So we know how to declare and assign strings because we do it like any variable. So when it says declare a string variable username, so that's string uppercase S username, right? Very simple. You know, equaling them does the same thing. Assignment does the same as it does for any variable. So let's try to do this number 5 here. Type one statement that declares a string named smallest planet and initialized it with Mercury. So that's going to be string smallest planet. That creates the string called smallest planet, and the value is supposed to be Mercury, and then semicolon to say we're done, right? So this is all the same as, you know, any other type. Nothing really special about strings in that respect. Okay. Now they're going to explain white space, which I already explained to you. So is white space because it's like horizontal or vertical space in the text. They give you examples here. I said spaces and tabs, but it's also spaces, tabs, new line characters as well count. Okay. So if you want to read one word, you use scnr.next as we already discussed. Okay. So when you look down here, whoa, if it says for the given input, indicate what string will be put into user string. Well, when you do user string equals scnr.next, if you type ABC, then ABC is going to go into the user string, right? But if you type hi there, the only thing that's going into the user string is going to be hi. Why? Remember, scnr.next reads one word. So it doesn't read the whole thing. It only reads one word. You said, hello, I'm tired. You're going to get the hello and the exclamation point. The way it knows the end of the word is when it sees spaces or tabs or things like that. So you have to be careful, I guess, that the exclamation point would go with that first word because there's no space there. Very fun. It's going to be very. Now, the reason they're putting this example here is because you'll notice that they have spaces at the beginning. That's what's different about this example. Okay. Now, when you do multiple scnr.nexts, we actually did talk about this. What happens is, each scnr.next reads one word. And what this exercise asks for is what is going to be put into second string. So second string is going to be the second word that's read. So it's the same as the previous exercise, but what is the second word basically? Because we read two. So what's the second word here? It is my, with the exclamation. What is the second word here? Sinatra. What's the second word here? ... No. Right? So the space doesn't matter, but the space does separate the words. So we have the first word O and the second word no. All right. What about here? We all know. Second word is all. Okay. So then there's some example here, which I'm not going to go over. You can look at it. Now, when it says getting a string with white space from input, well, what they're talking about here is getting an entire line of text. And so they explain what I already explained to you. That scnr dot next line is what's going to do that job. Okay, so it reads one line of text. So this exercise says, what does the following statement store into the indicated variable? So when you have this text here, hello there, welcome, that's two lines. The first line is going to be going into first string. The second line is going to be going into second string because next line reads one line and there's two. So it says first string is going to be what? Well, it's going to be the top line. So it gets the entire line of text. So hello there. If you type I don't know, first string is going to be the first line, I. If you type, hey buddy, what's up? What's the second string going to be? Well, the second string is going to be the second line. So it's going to be, what's up? Now here, it says second string gets what? And it says, note that the first line is blank. So the point there is that there is a blank line up here. So the first string is going to be that blank line. The second string should be the ABC. So, yeah. All right. When you read this, you're going to read the entire line. And we saw that when you read the entire line, you do get spaces at the beginning if you type spaces at the beginning. So which one of these is correct? Well, it's going to be the one that has the spaces at the beginning because the input has the spaces at the beginning. All right, I'm going to kind of jump down and we're going to do some kind of challenge exercise if they have them. We're not going to do all of these, but we're going to do a couple. Let's do one or two of this representing text ones. So let's hit start, but let's jump to like number 3 and see what we get. So type the program's output. So what's happening here? So string 1 is Robin. String 2 equals string 1, which is Robin. So they're both Robin, aren't they? So both of the strings are Robin. And then when we print out this, you have to be a little careful reading the print statement. So when it prints str1, that's going to print Robin like this. Then it prints a comma and a space. So that's a comma and a space. And then it prints string 2, but string 2 is also Robin. So it's Robin, comma, Robin. And then this is a system.out print line, which means at the end of the line, there's a new line. So this prints comma, Robin, comma, Robin. Okay. skip to maybe 6 and see what's going on. So they're typing in different things here. And what's happening, maybe I'll open Notepad so we can kind of click around here. So when we run this line, str1 equals scnr.next line, you're going to get one line of text. So you're going to get the first line of text from the input. So when we run the line that I highlighted here, str1, our first string, is going to be equal to the first line of text in the input, which is elk eagle. So the whole thing. Then the next one is string str2 equals scnr next line. So that is going to give you what? Well, we're reading the second line. So you look over here and you read the second line, which is going to be dog. So str2 is going to be dog, like that. And then we are printing system.out println str1, system.out println str2. So we're going to be printing out these two strings, and we're using print line, which means we're going to go down to the next line when we're done. So it's going to print elk eagle and then dog. So it's going to print elk eagle enter, dog enter. What happened to the llama? Well, we never read the llama because we only read 2 lines, and llama was the third line. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Let's go ahead and try one of the exercises where we actually type our own code here. Of course, you're going to have different exercises unless you refresh it. So let's see what we're doing here. Write a program that reads a person's first and last names separated by a space. Okay. Assuming the first and last names are both single words, right? Because not everybody's name is one word. And then the program outputs last name, comma, first name. Okay, so they're going to type in something like this, Maya Jones, but we want to print it out as Jones, comma, Maya. So in order to read these names, we're going to read 2 words. Now we're not going to use next line. Next line would read this entire thing into one variable. We don't want to read it into one variable. We want to read it into 2 variables. We know that because look here, they have 2 variables set up for it. And they also say, well, actually they don't really specify, but they did make 2 variables here. So if they have 2 variables, we should probably read them in 2 variables. And the way to read one word at a time is to use next, not next line. So what do we do? Well, let's just try it. So they're going to type first name and then last name. So first name equals, and then we want to read one word. So that's scnr dot next. That's read one word. But then we need to read their last name. So their last name is scnr dot next. That also reads one word. So we use scnr next to read first the Maya and Jones, right? Of course, they're going to change the names on us, but to start with, we need to read those, the first name and the last name, and we have. Now, after we read the first name and the last name, we're supposed to print it out like this. So this is printing with the last name. So first you print the last name, then you print the comma, then you print the first name. So you can do all that in one line. In fact, I think we have actually seen it if we scroll up. But what we want to print, oops. system.out.println. I think we need a print line. We want to print their last name first. So last name. Then we want to print a comma. So there's no quotes here, right? We just say last name because we want to print the text that is inside of this variable. But after we print the last name, then what we want to print is a comma and a space. So in order to print the comma and the space, we have to type the comma and the space. So we will have to use quotes, comma, space, quotes, and then another plus. And then we want to print the first name. So you have to be good. You have to be good at formatting your print statements like this, where you're printing variables, so it's not in quotes. You're printing text that you want to type, so that is in quotes. And any of those things, when you're printing more than one thing in a print statement, you're going to need to use these pluses between all the things in order to make it, compile properly. So be careful how you format that, but I mean, this is probably correct. And it is. Okay. So let's go down here. Let's skip the first one. First one might be a little too easy. Let's see. Guess I have to click start. Let's see what the second one is. Let's see what the third one is. Yeah, let's do this one. This one looks complicated. So let's see what we got going on here. Now, whenever you've got one like this, you have to read it very carefully. And after you read it very carefully, you want to, you kind of want to look at the input and the output and make sure you understand exactly what's going on. A lot of times, the sample input and output give you enough clues about what to do. Okay, so let's read it carefully and try to compare what they're saying in the instructions to the code that's already written here. Okay, so here it says, read the string variables. What string variables? Visited list name, place 1, place 2, place 3. So these are your variables. And I look down here for them and I see that they already exist, right? Visited list name, place 1, place 2, place 3. Those are the variables. Okay. So they already exist, but then we need to read them, right? Because it says read them. Read the string variables from input. So those are going to come from the scanner, right? We're going to type them in. So I'm going to put a little comment here. So what we want to remember when we're doing this is remember, we're going to use next to read, actually scnr next, just to make it look the same. Use scnr.next to read one word at a time, and scnr.next line to read one line. Okay, so we're going to be careful about which one we're using and when we're using it. Okay, so let's come up here. It says, assuming the list's name contains multiple words. Okay, so that's our first clue. The list's name contains multiple words. Okay, now when you look at the input, look at the input's going to be countries I've been to. That's the list name, countries I've been to. And it's multiple words. So if the list name is multiple words, what should I use? Should I use scnr.next or scnr.next line? Right? So if we're going to be reading an entire line of text, multiple words, we should be using next line. So to read it, I'm going to take my variable name, visited list name, and it's going to equal scnr dot, and it's going to be next line. So that will read one whole line of text. Okay, so that's the first thing we've done. So now we've read this. Now, after we read the list name, it says something else. Each place visited is a single word. So if you look at the, the countries I visited here, right? They typed Yemen, Russia, Qatar, right? So we've got 3 different places, but they're all on the same line. So we don't want to use next line to read them because each of those places needs to be in its own variable. Okay, so each of those places needs to be in their own variable. So we're going to read one word at a time, right? Place 1 is Yemen, place 2 is Russia, etc. So what we got to do when we're reading one word at a time is we should be using scnr.next. So to read the first place, which is called place 1, I know that because I see it right here in the list. And to read one word, it's scnr.next. And we just do that for all 3 places. So place 1 is scnr.next. Place 2 is scnr.next. Place 3 is scnr.next. Just like that. So you just have to be careful when you're doing this problem to understand that when they told you that the visited list name was going to be multiple words, we were going to have to use next line. But when the places are one word, we want to use next. Okay? And there we go. So those are the type of exercises that we have in here. And, like I said, these are not super time consuming. They do take a little bit of work. I will say this. So I haven't really recorded a bunch of new videos this semester, but just to show you, I do want to point out that if you get stuck on these, it's okay to use AI to help you with them. You don't want to rely on AI 100% because if you make AI do all of your problems, then then it's not you doing them. Okay, so you have to be careful. So what do I mean? Like if we go to Chat GPT, for example, and it says, "What can I help you with?" Now I don't know what the free tier of Chat GPT has, so I'll set this to GPT 4.0. That's probably everybody has access to that, I think. And we'll go back here. So like, let's say I'm really stuck on this problem and I don't know what to do. AI will be capable of doing this problem. So what you could do is you could take the instructions here, read string variables, right? We don't even need to, I could read it out loud, but we're pretending that we don't know what to do. So I copy like just the instructions here, and then I do that. And one key or kind of tip for ChatGPT, you may know that if I hit enter right now, then it's going to send this to the AI, won't it? I don't want it to do that. So if you hold the shift key down, when you press enter, then you'll be able to go down to the next line without sending it to the AI. So you may want to know that if you didn't know it. So hold down shift and hit enter to do that. So I go down to the next line, then I can take my code here and I can put it here. Oops. Where am I? I could put it here. So I put the code, the sample code. I'll hit shift enter again. And if I just, sent this to the AI, it's probably just going to solve it. but you can add extra kind of commands to the chat window here. And so what I'll do is I'll say, please comment the code and explain what you did. And then I'll send it to the AI. So the code that it added was here. So you see it says, read 2 words from user input and store them in the respective variables. Favorite drink, SCNR next, favorite drink, SCNR next. Print the favorite drinks in the required format. Favorite drinks, favorite drink 1 plus comma space, favorite drink 2. So that's the code. And then it tries to explain it, and it tries to show you what it thinks it's going to do. And so I have an explanation for this code. Now, looking back at the original, right, you have to be a little bit careful because you can see that the code that we need to put, it comes first, there's scanner SCNR, then string favorite drink 1, string favorite drink 2, and then actually the print line is also done for us, right? So we only want the code that's in between these 2 things, which is actually, oops, the code between them is actually just these lines right here. So these were the 2 lines that read the favorite drinks. Oops, the mouse pointer. So the reason I'm doing that was because, again, the AIs that are available right now are mostly able to do a lot of they're able to do a lot of the problems that we have in an introductory programming class like this. And so if you are very stuck on a challenge exercise, well, first of all, if you're stuck, you should come to like office hours or something, or send me an email. So when you get stuck, right, 1, office hours. 2, you can screenshot the problem you're stuck on and email it or message me. Let's say email. 3, you can use for a little help. Use AI for a little help. Okay, so those kinds of things will help you so that you don't get stuck for a long time, right? Don't spend like an hour on, one exercise or something. That's too long, okay? And you'll get frustrated if you do that a lot. So if you are having trouble with something, maybe skip it and move on to the next exercise, and just get help with the one that you're stuck on. The way everybody does programming is by, somebody shows you how to do it, and then you try to remember it in the future. Okay, so that's just kind of how everybody works. All right, so I think that's going to be it for right now. I think this is 45 minutes or 50 minutes, something like that. So we'll go ahead and say that we're done for today, but hopefully that was a little bit helpful. Now, the later sections in here are going to be like, one of them is going to be on debugging, which I might make more. But if you look through this, there is no exercises. Well, there's a little bit of exercises, I guess. There's just this participation activity in here. So not a lot of no challenge exercises in the next section. So you can just read through it. And the style guidelines are going to be like how to type things. Again, this is going to be just kind of informational mostly. So, you type things out nicely spaced like this. You don't make it look like this because this is very ugly, right? So they'll tell you tips on how to type things out so they look nice. And again, no exercises. So you just click through it and you're done. So really, we did all of chapter 6 today because these other sections you just need to read through and click a couple of participation activities. All right, so that's going to be it for now. And, I will talk to you guys later. Have a good weekend.